Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Tyler McNabb, and this is my 400EX. So as you can see, got this thing looking pretty close to back to looking like a quad. So in the last video, got the engine put in, got the wiring harness all put on, got the oil cooler, tank, fan, all that stuff on, the cooling system, all that good stuff. And so yeah, the main power plant of the quad is back in, and really the only thing left is to get kind of the extra stuff for it on. So that's going to be the plan for this video. I got the carburetor all cleaned up, get that on, airbox, exhaust, all that fun stuff, get that stuff on. And the main goal in this video is going to be to get the quad running. So that's going to be the main goal. Something I will add, kind of off camera, I didn't film it or anything, but kind of going back towards the last video, I said I put the wiring harness on. What I mainly did is I just kind of got it all in place and hooked up some stuff, but didn't hook everything up. And so kind of off camera, I was making sure I had everything hooked up right. I got the starter hooked up, and then I hooked up the battery cables, and I hooked up the ground to the frame and everything. So if you don't know, when you get like a quad powder coated, especially if you've got anything that hooks to the frame as a grounding point, you need to grind off the powder coat. So not sure if you can see very well, but right here, the powder coat's been ground off, so that the grounding point is actually contacting bare metal on the frame, because the powder coat will not conduct electricity. So basically what happened was I tried to just make sure this thing would crank over before I put anything extra on, and I didn't have any sort of cranking or anything. And it turns out, me being new to all this, I forgot a couple ground points. So I had the ground point for the negative cable, so the subframe was being grounded, and then I also had the coil. I ground off the powder coat where that mounts, grounded, but it wasn't getting ground because even though the subframe is grounded, I didn't grind off the powder coat where the subframe connects to the frame, and so that was causing a lack of ground to come to this part of the frame, giving me no spark and no power. Well, mainly no power to the starter, which means it wasn't turning over, and you can't get spark if it's not turning over. So that ended up being a main issue that I had. Once I figured that out, I ground those points down, and the thing turns over great, and we have good spark. So anyway, just kind of a life lesson there. I'm working on that. Big thanks to my dad. He helped me figure that out. So anyway, yeah, that's going to be, so the goal in this video, like I said, get this thing running, and then after that, depending on how much time that takes, I'll probably maybe do some other odds and ends on the quad, get some other little things on. But yeah, so anyway, what we'll do is I'll probably get into, I'm going to show you something new that I got for the quad. If you're following me on Instagram, you've already seen it, but it kind of has to do with getting the quad running. So let's get into the video. Okay guys, so as I said, I got something new and cool for the quad, and yeah, let's just take a look at it. So I was able to pick up a new sponsor this year. Well, basically all new sponsors that I picked up this year. If you haven't noticed at my outro at the end of the videos, take a second to look at them and check out those companies. They were able to support me a little bit this year, so that was really helpful when building this quad. But anyway, picked up this sponsor this year, and as you can probably tell by this box, you can guess what's inside. So let's open it up real quick. I've already been in messing with it. So as you can see here, we've got this beautiful stainless steel header pipe for the 400. We got that. And then we'll dig down in here a little bit more. Slide that out. And what do we have here? A beautiful HMF Competition Series exhaust. So as you can see here, like I said, HMF Competition Series exhaust. You know, the one I had on it before that you guys probably saw, it was like a, it was their Performance Series, so it's kind of their entry-level exhaust. And I had taken it apart and powder coated it red and black. I'd show it to you, but I actually already sold it. So a kid out in California messaged me when I got this new one and said, hey, what are you gonna do with that old exhaust? And I said, probably sell it, and he bought it from me. So hopefully it's treating him pretty well. And yeah, so I decided, like I said, HMF jumped on board as a sponsor for this year, so I was able to get this at a pretty good price. So if you're ever looking for a new exhaust for a 400 or any quad for that matter, they make all sorts of exhausts. They make them for sport quads, utility quads, side-by-sides, all kinds of stuff. But I've always been a fan of the HMFs. That's what I've ran on most of my quads most of my life. And they've always been good, reliable exhausts. They make good power. They sound really good. They've usually got kind of a deeper tone than a lot of other exhausts, and in my opinion, they almost make the 400s sound like a 450. They sound really good. So anyway, I got that exhaust, and then also to go with it, I have some exhaust wrap here. So if you didn't see before on my other exhaust, I had some header wrap all down along the side of the engine. I'll show you where it was. So where the header comes around right here, I had some exhaust wrap on the header right here. And the reason for that is that's because my hydraulic clutch sits right here. And one of the issues I found when running this hydraulic clutch is it sits so close to the header that if I don't have exhaust wrap on it, then what happens is once the engine gets really warm and hot and everything, it ends up boiling the hydraulic fluid in that clutch. And then when that happens, I lose all of my clutch. So to combat that, we just went ahead and wrapped the exhaust header right there, and it seemed to work out really good. So that's the same thing I'm gonna do on this one. I'm gonna wrap the header right there. I ended up, I got the stuff off of Amazon. It's kind of the cheaper stuff. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the super nice expensive stuff, but I ended up buying way too much, because not only did I get 2-inch instead of 1-inch, I think last time I used 1-inch, I bought 2-inch for some reason this time, but I bought 2 rolls of it just to have an extra, and I ended up with way too much. And so I've got all the clamps and stuff too. This is like the amount you would need if you're wrapping like headers on a freaking V8. So pretty much, yeah, I've got plenty of exhaust wrap for, I could probably wrap this exhaust every single race if I wanted to. But anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and probably first thing I'll do is I'm gonna get that wrapped up and then maybe try to slap it on the quad and see what it looks like. So let's try that. Okay, so I've got my header pipe here. Let's see, you can see these marks. I've got one mark there, one mark down here. That's where my exhaust wrap needs to go. So basically all I'm gonna do here first is I'm just gonna kind of lay it out how I want it, roll it out a little bit. And then what you're actually supposed to do when you put this on, the best way to do it is, so I'm gonna wrap it, see how much I need, probably cut it, and then you soak it in water. And then when you soak it in water and wrap it back around this, it'll conform better than if it's dry, where it'll just kind of sit on there. Where if it's wet, it'll kind of conform to the pipe a little bit better. So then if you do that and then let it dry out, or basically you put it on, clamp it, let it dry out, and then it'll probably sit on there longer and not be as quite as loose. So anyway, I'm gonna try to just do a little test fit here real quick. Okay guys, I'm gonna be honest, I was stupid. Not only did I buy the wrong size, I also bought way too much of that header wrap. So I bought 2-inch instead of the stuff I was using last year was 1-inch. And here I've got a little bit of leftover. I didn't think I had enough, but I wrapped it off camera and it's just about the perfect amount. So I'm just gonna end up using this. And so I bought, way too much of the wrong size because I wrapped the 2-inch around it and it only went around it like a couple times and it just looked kind of dumb compared to like the skinnier stuff. So yep, my mistake. But anyway, I'm gonna use this. And so like I said, I've got like the perfect amount. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go soak this in water real quick, and then we'll try to wrap it around and get it clamped on the exhaust. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get this wrapped up real quick. I'm gonna dip this guy in water. Pull it out. And then I'm just gonna try to wrap it. Okay guys, well, I got the exhaust wrap on and clamped. I was having a little bit of trouble there, so I kind of shut off the camera and was messing with stuff because I thought these clamps that came with the exhaust wrap, if you've ever repaired like a CV joint boot, or just like on a utility quad, the axle has the little CV boots. If you've ever repaired one of those and put these clamps on, you usually need a tool like this to tighten those clamps. But these actually said that all you had to do is basically pull them tight and then they would stay. I couldn't quite get them tight enough by just pulling them with a set of pliers, so I ended up just getting this tool out anyway. You can buy this tool pretty cheap on Amazon for like 20-30 bucks, I think. So if you ever need to use a clamp like this, just get online, buy something like that. I'll leave a link down in the description of where I got mine. So anyway, so I ended up getting this on. It's not the best. I mean, it's pretty tight. However, it's a tiny bit loose, but I've got I've got a couple of those extra clamps. So if I need to reclamp it later, then so be it. So anyway, got that. So really the only thing left to do is to get this thing on the quad. So let's try and do that real quick. Okay, so I got new copper exhaust gaskets as well. So I got those. So you want to make sure you slide those guys in. Well, dropped one, but you'll want to make sure you slide those in before you put your exhaust on. That one's in. This one didn't quite want to go back as far. Anyway, I got those, and then I went ahead and put new exhaust studs in a while back, and then I got all new exhaust nuts as well, just because they weren't very expensive and the old ones were somewhat bent and just corroded and all that fun stuff. So I figured I might as well go ahead, spend the money, get some new exhaust studs, get some new exhaust nuts, get the new copper gaskets before I put put a brand new exhaust on. So now that I have all that stuff in, I guess just kind of some helpful tips when you're putting these new exhaust studs in, just run them down. I put a good bit of Loctite on them, and then just put them in. I put them in actually like a couple weeks ago, but if you're going to do that, make sure you put them in, give that Loctite plenty of time to cure before you go and put the new exhaust on. I think it's the Loctite recommends like 24 hours before any heat's applied to it. So anyway, got the new exhaust studs, and yeah, all it's left to do is to get the header pipe on. So let me jump into that real quick. So we got that header bolted up, and so basically what I like to do is tighten it until you can see just a slight bend in these flanges. That's when you know you're basically about as good as you get, and usually the exhaust nuts are just about flush with the end of the stud is usually where I like to be. So as you can see, that guy's flush, and then you might not be able to see it, but these flanges have like just a tiny bit of bend to them. So basically that's how I know the header's bottomed out. It's good and tight. And so next step would be to get the muffler on. So let's do that real quick. Would you look at that? Isn't that just beautiful? Beautiful HMF Competition Series exhaust. Looking fresh. All bolted up. Solid on the machine. Beautiful stainless steel head pipe going all the way back to that beautifully powder coated black muffler. So, got the exhaust all bolted up. Looking good, as you can probably tell by my lots of adjectives. But anyway, yeah, exhaust looks great, and hopefully towards the end of this video we'll get to hear the sound of it too. So next thing I'll probably do is jump into getting the carburetor put on, get the air box, gas tank, and this thing will be ready about ready to fire up. So as I said before, I know it turns over. I tested that, and so I'll get the throttle cable hooked up so I can at least, start it. I still don't have my steering stem, so I can't put the handlebars on yet, so won't be able to do that, but I can still put the throttle, and I've got the starter button, so we should be able to start it. So anyway, let's jump into getting the carburetor on. So here we have my carburetor that's on this 400EX, and so at first glance it may look somewhat like a 400EX carburetor because, you know, this side kind of looks like it, but this, as you can tell, is not stock. And if you held a 400EX carburetor up next to this one, you would realize that it's smaller because if you haven't heard me say in past videos, I run a 450 carburetor on this. So this is actually one of the 0405 450 carburetors. So it's a Kaheen, like butterfly style carburetor. So it's got like this tubular slide in the middle, and then it's got the, if I can hold it, it's got the butterfly valve on the outside. Or I guess technically that's on the inside. So that's this style carburetor. And then the newer 450s, they have, a lot of people run those as well. They're the FCR carburetor. So this is not an FCR carburetor. This is the other type. So anyway, it's a good carburetor. It's got this adapter on it because it's not that the airbox won't fit over it. It's that this adapter spaces this out because this carburetor is, I guess, skinnier than the stock 400EX carburetor. So anyway, I just figured I would tell you guys about that. So it is a 450 carburetor, great carburetor. I haven't had too many problems with it. This carburetor is a 42 millimeter carburetor, so it is quite a bit bigger. I want to say the stock 400 is like maybe a 38 or a 39 millimeter. I'll put on the screen what it actually is. I wasn't 100% sure, but yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know this one is bigger than the stock 400 carburetor. So and then a lot of the people that run the FCRs, those are they either run a 38 or a 39 millimeter depending on which FCR carburetor they run. But I really like it. It has great throttle response. It makes the 400 very snappy. Overall, I've been pleased with it. But yeah, I figured I'd just talk about it real quick. So good carburetor, and yeah, don't have too many complaints. When you do put these 450 carbs on, you do have to delete the choke. The choke is still there, but the handle is just removed. And then you have to delete a couple other things like the AFR, or not the AFR, the throttle position sensors wires are just cut since the 400 doesn't have it. And then there's a couple of holes you have to plug. I can't remember what all, like that one at the top, that one's plugged by a screw, and then I think there's a couple others, but video's not focused on that. I just figured I would go ahead and talk about it. So anyway, yeah, that's my carburetor, and let's put it on the quad. That went way easier than it should have. A lot of times it gives me a pain, but that one was actually pretty easy. so got everything mounted up. I went ahead and just kind of time-lapse, got the airbox on, the heat shield that goes under the gas tank, got the gas tank all mounted up, and hooked up to the carburetor. And then I filled the oil tank up with oil. And so since these are a dry sump system, technically there's no oil actually sitting in the engine, but there's quite a bit of residue still left, so it'll be fine. It sucks the oil in pretty quick, so you usually don't have to worry about that when changing the oil or anything. But got that pretty much filled up with oil. And then I went ahead and kind of rigged up the throttle. I've just got my bars sitting here, so attach the throttle, so got that rigged up so we can try and start this thing. So yeah, we'll go ahead and I'll set up the camera and we can get this thing running. Hey, so I got the gas on, got the starter button down here, and then keys turned on. And this thing usually takes a little bit to start. Like I was talking about the carburetor, this thing doesn't really have a choke, or at least I can't engage it, so it will get there, but it'll take a minute. It'll probably crank over a couple times. As you heard, it was kind of running away there, so I'm going to put the air filter on because it was probably getting too much air. So I'm going to put the air filter on. Okay guys, well, as you can see, it runs and it sounds pretty dang good. Not sure how good the sound's gonna come across on the GoPro or not, because you know the microphones aren't the best on them, but it sounds good. It doesn't sound a ton different from my other HMF, but I think I can tell just a little bit. It's got a little bit of a deeper tone and maybe a little more growl to it, if you know what I mean. Anyway, you know, HMFs, they sound good. This HMF sounds good. My old HMF sounds good. You know, they sound good, basically is what I'm trying to say. So overall, plus it probably helps that this one's a lot newer, so it's got good fresh packing in it and all that stuff. But anyway, so the quad is in a pretty good state at this point. Yeah, honestly, not a ton left to do on this thing. I'm still, unfortunately, waiting on a steering stem to come in, which is by my handlebars are just chilling down here, and how I kind of had to rig that up. So hopefully that steering stem will come in real soon, and then we can honestly pretty much wrap up the quad. I still do have some stuff to do. It's not like that's the only thing I'm waiting on. So we still got to do like rear brakes, got to get those on, got to get front brakes on. You know, front brakes, I'm waiting for the steering stem, because it's hard to bleed brakes when you don't have handlebars to attach the master cylinder to. So got that, and then just a bunch of odds and ends. You know, want to put the skid plate back on, you know, front bumper, and then plastics and all that other fun stuff. So thanks you guys coming and watching the videos. Hopefully you're enjoying this build series. This thing is getting pretty close. So hopefully I'll get it finished in the next week or so, maybe a couple weeks at most, and be able to get out and do a little bit of riding before the season starts. So it's currently still, when I'm filming this video, it is currently still kind of mid to late January. So we still got well over probably 5 to 6 weeks before the first race of the year. So I'm not too concerned about that, but yeah, I just want to get this thing buttoned up and be able to do just a little bit of riding before the season starts to make sure everything's in order and, you know, got any bugs worked out or anything like that, and make sure everything's tight and functioning good and all that stuff. So anyway, thanks for coming and watching. I really do appreciate it. Without you guys, like I've said, no reason to make these videos. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.